Welcome to the first MiMU Q&A video, where we answer your questions on the MiMU Gloves and more. If you're watching this and you come up with your own question, just send us a message on social media and we'll try and cover it in the next video. Okay, let's get started. A lot of people have asked us the following question. What does MiMU stand for? So MiMU as an organisation is really about trying to help people make music making more expressive and more personal. And so the idea of MiMU came about from thinking about music making as being about me and my music. And we took the first part of me and the first part of music and we kind of put them together. We ended up using an I because that was more obvious in the pronunciation. But yeah, MiMU is about me and my music. So Little Wing asks, do MiMU Gloves work with a specific app? Or could we use them as an input control for faves like Endless, Audio Kit Synth 1, Beep Stream Impactor or Elf Audio Koala? So the gloves come with their own custom software called Glover. And Glover basically allows you to take all of the gestures that you can make with the gloves and to compose them into specific controls that you can then use to send to music software to control your effects and your synthesizers and so on. And the way it does this is by sending either MIDI or OSC messages. So really any music software that can understand MIDI or OSC can be controlled using the gloves and Glover. For the specific pieces of software that you mention, you can definitely control Endless Desktop with the gloves. For the others, it's my understanding that those are iOS apps for the most part. And you can use the gloves and Glover to send messages to iOS apps, but it's definitely more efficient and generally a better setup for your music software to be running on the same machine that your gloves are connected to. So someone on Instagram asked us, are you guys developing something for visuals as well? Like to be able to make visuals through dance? So we've already had a few artists use the gloves to control visuals. So I think the first example of this was Imogen Heap in her Me the Machine video. So during the video shoot, she was using the gloves to control this particle representation of the human body and the different parameters of it, because the particles could kind of come apart and come back together. And she was also able to sort of sculpt other sort of lines into the graphics of the video. Another artist who's been using the gloves to control visuals is Chagall. She's got a whole show where she's able to control both the music and the visuals behind her using the gloves, and she's had things like a pair of claws that she's been able to use that are controlled by the gloves. She's also been able to use the gloves to sculpt sort of images into existence. It's quite, you'll see from the images on screen. And she's more recently using a full bodysuit where she's able to control like an avatar of herself on stage. Another example is an artist called Synthestruct, and she's been using the gloves to control projections in a sort of 24-meter Cinedome in Orlando, Florida, and it's just really, really amazing and beautiful to watch, and I wish I could have been there. So how does all this work? So basically, because the gloves and Glover can send MIDI and OSC, there's a whole bunch of visual software such as Unity or things like Open Frameworks or processing that can receive MIDI or OSC, and then they can just be mapped to control parameters of visual graphic stuff on screen in real time. There's a whole bunch of other live visual manipulation software which is super exciting and has great potential for live gesture. So Beth on Instagram asks, hi, I'm a neurologic music therapist and I think the gloves would be an incredible tool for my patients. Have you ever looked into the applications of this device for music therapy? So we've had this question a few times from different people, and we're beginning to look into some of the sort of medical and therapeutic applications of the gloves. It's something that we don't know a terrible amount about, and it's definitely much more sensitive than music technology. So if this is something that you do or you work in this area and you're interested in pursuing this, then we'd love to discuss it more. So drop us a message and let's talk. Jen asks, hello, does each glove have 6 degrees of freedom? Can you also track the relationship between the two gloves, such as distance between them? Many thanks. It's a very good question. So the gloves track orientation, that's the pitch, which is sort of this angle and the roll and the yaw of each of your hands. But what it doesn't do, it doesn't track absolute position, so it doesn't track up and down and left and right and forwards and backwards. So in that sense, the gloves only track orientation. The reason we do this is that without a sort of fixed point of reference, tracking your exact position in space can actually have a lot of drift and variability and error involved in the measurement. With the orientation measurements, we know we can get them extremely accurate, and we only want to provide measurements that you can rely on when you're doing something like a live performance. So Bill asks, is the Glover software a DAW plugin like a VST or a VSTi, or is it a standalone application? So Glover is a standalone application, so it runs either on Mac or PC on your laptop or your desktop computer. And basically you use Glover to then compose the gestures together, and you can send them to a DAW via MIDI or OSC messages. Pareso the Pearl asks us, are the gloves developed to play music and mix with decks while dancing? So if I understand your question correctly, you're basically asking, like, can the gloves be used by a DJ? And the answer to that is definitely yes. So you can imagine the gloves being used to kind of crossfade between tracks, to apply effects, or even to bring in some extra instrumentation or something like that, or real-time live performance things. However, we've had very few DJs actually try to do this, and for such a cool application, we really think this is one of the really open areas for innovation and experimentation that's left for the gloves. So if you're a DJ, then please get in touch. So Miriam asks, is it possible to combine gestures from both gloves in order to get more different mapping possibilities? So yeah, absolutely. So if you can imagine that you could make a fist with your left hand, and then with your right hand you could make a pinch gesture and then roll your wrist, and maybe this would control the amount of reverb. You can then actually change this gesture maybe to an open hand, and this might now control something else, like a filter cutoff or some parameter of a synthesizer. So each glove can recognize 9 different postures. So when you think about combining those together, that's 81 different combinations. And if you think that you can also combine them with directions like up and down and left and right, really the combinations go into the thousands. It's really up to you to kind of come up with your own movements that represent you and your music. So Michelle asked us, can you use this to start to learn to create music, or do you need to have a background in music previously? So in theory, you don't need any musical background to use the gloves, and you really could just sort of use them as your first instrument, and I'd definitely be interested in seeing what kind of musician that made. But more broadly, it does help if you've got some, not enormous, but some small experience in playing a musical instrument, for example, or maybe you've got some experience in music production or using some music software. Those things are just going to help you get off the ground and get started a bit faster. But if you're unsure at all, then always just send us a message and we can help you figure out whether the gloves are right for you or not. So that was it for today. So if you've got any more questions, then please leave us a comment or send us an email to support@mimugloves.com. And make sure you hit the subscribe button to get notified on our future videos. Bye-bye for now.